processed meat, Bobby, is a scary thing. And that's not to mention what else they put in it to preserve it. They actually put a color fixer chemical in the processed meat to turn it red so that you'll buy it.
So it's not just naturally red because it came from the inside of a cow. They're putting colored dye in.
It's not dye. It's a chemical that is a preservative and a color fixer, and it turns the meat red. Otherwise, the meat would look putrid gray.
Americans want quick, cheap, convenient food, and if you look at the ingredients list on something like this, it's actually kind of scary. It starts off with high fructose corn syrup, and then the bologna is made from mechanically separated chicken and pork and corn syrup and modified food starch.
So chicken, pork, and syrup.
Yum.
I'm hungry too, Dave. Let's grab a burger.
If you go buy a piece of processed meat, like sandwich meat, for example, at the grocery store, it may have been on that shelf for 3 or 4 weeks. It should be gray. People wouldn't buy it. They'd be sickened by it. So they use a chemical called sodium nitrite or sodium nitrate. This chemical, the USDA tried to ban this chemical in the 1970s. They were unsuccessful because of food industry lobbyists. It's still legal, and by the way, it causes cancer. It is such a powerful carcinogenic chemical that it belongs to a class of chemicals called nitrosamines that lab researchers actually inject into mice when they want to give them cancer so they can study the cancer.
What's the name of this?
Sodium nitrite or sodium nitrate. It's listed right on the label, Bobby.
So we can look at lunch meat and we can tell if it's on there or not.
Yeah, so they're eating cancer because it makes the meat look pretty.
You know, when we think about the danger, the food safety danger, because of, you know, if one sick animal gets processed and that meat gets mixed around, that muscle or fat gets mixed around, it can really cause a problem with the whole food system.
If they're putting antibiotics, if they're putting hormones in these sick cows to make them better, what is that going to do to me?
The industry-wide secret butchers don't want you to know about. Major suppliers have been caught using a special product known as meat glue to stick together scraps of meat to sell as prime cuts. But while this product has been banned overseas, there's no law prohibiting its use here. Here's Rodney Lowe's with this special investigation.
It's the meat industry's dirty secret, a way of turning the scraps too small to sell as a premium steak back into a juicy, plump eye fillet to sell for a premium price. So clever, you'll never tell. Not even an expert can.
Before, you didn't even pick that as a join, though, did you?
It doesn't even tear through the joint. A bit hard to tell, isn't it?
Butcher James Faulkner runs Queensland Natural Beef Company, an organisation dedicated to using as few additives in meat from paddock to plate as possible. But tonight, he's exposing how some parts of the industry are able to trick their customers and use whatever it takes.
Yeah. I've just got some fine diced beef and my special enzyme. I'm just going to mix it up a bit.
Why have we got the masks on?
This is dangerous. See that? Don't breathe that in.
This powder is transglutamase enzyme, otherwise known as meat glue. Meat glues come in a number of forms, some produced by cultivating bacteria, the others, the primary ingredient comes from the blood plasma of pigs and cattle, specifically the coagulant which causes blood to clot. In the food industry, it has amazing properties.
So just got a little bit here, about a teaspoonful.
Yep.
Just over the top like that. And with our gloves on, of course, we mix it up.
Then roll it in plastic film and refrigerate. 6 hours later, you have a solid piece of meat.
And essentially, you've got a reborn, rebirthed eye fillet.
More or less, yeah.
Ours uncooked is easy to spot the difference, but cooked is another story.
OK, so the meat glue one is on the right and the real McCoy is on the left.
And it's not just beef. Pork, lamb, fish and chicken are all stuck back together using this glue.
It looks like one piece of chicken.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yep.
But hard to tell, isn't it?
Particularly that.
On the grill, it's even harder to pick.
So that's the real McCoy. Give this a burl. Nice and tender, nicely salted. All right, let's go for the meat glue. I can't tell the difference.
Pretty good, but potentially dangerous.
I've sort of got two concerns. One that is well publicised, which is misleading people. The other area is the microbial side.
It's why the European Union moved to ban meat glue in May last year. Microbiologist Glenn Pinner.
If this food is sold or represented as a solid piece of steak and you cook it rare, you're really leaving yourself open to get food poisoning.
Once you glue two pieces together, it's difficult to cook thoroughly those parts that were on the outside but are now on the inside.
The amount of bacteria on a steak that has been put together with meat glue is hundreds of times higher.
We had no idea how guarded a secret this was until we started contacting restaurateurs and butchers to ask them about the use of meat glue. Many of them didn't want to speak for fear of upsetting their suppliers, creating bad blood in an industry that has become very clever at using this product.
Are you just shaking your head?
A little bit. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
This cube roll we bought from a wholesaler that produces stuck-together steaks en masse. Their effort's so good, James, our butcher, couldn't tell even when it was raw. It's even harder in the restaurant, which are some of the biggest users of glued meat. And chances are, unless you're a vegetarian, you're eating it on a regular basis. But with current labelling laws, neither butchers nor your local eatery have to tell you you're eating chicken glued together with cow's blood or beef held together by pig. It's the same reason they can take low-grade meat and pump it with water and flavour to make it edible.
Okay, so just after about a minute or two, we've got quite a lot of moisture out of there. And we've lost almost half a kilo.
Then the practice of selling mutton as lamb and old cow as prime cut beef. Like this, so old, a meat grader said it was only good for pet mince.
You've got yellow fat colour, really dark meat colour. It's definitely off a really old type of animal.
In New South Wales, new labelling regulations have just been introduced to help consumers choose quality meat, but it's not compulsory. So for most of us, picking a quality piece of meat is still a shot in the dark.
I think we can all agree that no matter how you slice it, a healthy diet includes lots of fresh fruits, veggies, and other plant-based foods like grains and beans. You may be thinking, okay, eat more plants. I get it, but why should I eat less meat? Author, fitness, and nutrition expert Dr. Janet Brill dishes up some facts about meat consumption.
Meat-loving Americans are shortening their lives. There's unquestionable scientific evidence that excessive eating of red and processed meats is linked to colorectal cancer, it's linked to heart disease, it's linked to all of these ills that are killing off Americans at an unprecedented rate. Americans eat more red processed meat than all of the chicken, the poultry, and fish put together. The food that they eat and their choice to put sneakers on and be more active is the most powerful medicine for preventing chronic disease. The chronic disease that I'm talking about is cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, and strokes, because that is what most Americans, most human beings walking the planet Earth will die from.
Why do saturated fat, meat, and animal products wreak this kind of havoc on us? In Dr. Michael Greger's video, Uprooting the 15 Leading Causes of Death, he explains,
after a meal of animal products, people suffer from endotoxemia. Their bloodstream becomes awash with bacterial toxins, known as endotoxins, that are present in the animal products. So, no wonder our body goes crazy. These dead meat bacteria toxins aren't destroyed by stomach acid, aren't destroyed by pancreatic enzymes, right? Aren't destroyed by cooking. They tried boiling meat for hours, still didn't work. And so these bacterial toxins were found to be highly resistant to cooking and our body's best attempts at acid and enzyme digestion. The animal fat actually does play a profound role in this whole process by ferrying the bacterial toxins present in the meat through the gut into our system. So the reason animal products trigger immediate inflammation appears to be because they're so loaded with bacteria that can trigger inflammation dead or alive, even if they're fully cooked. And then saturated animal fat then boosts the absorption of these toxins into our bloodstream. So now that we know what's going on, what do we have to do? Well, from a 2012 follow-up, the most obvious solution to this metabolic endotoxemia, okay, well, we can reduce saturated fat intake, which in this country is mostly cheese and chicken, but the Western diet is not conducive to this mode of action, and it is difficult for patients to comply with this request. So what? Let's not even tell them, right? I mean, this patronizing attitude in the medical profession of, oh, patients won't change their diet or stop smoking. I mean, even if it's going to kill them, so why bother?
The inflammation Dr. Greger describes is a common function of our immune system, a complex biological response to harmful stimuli. Ever been sick? You've experienced inflammation. That sort of inflammation is normal, healthy, and necessary for survival. But when our immune systems are constantly bombarded by external stimuli like stress, toxins, and excess weight, results in common conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, allergies and asthma, and the more serious heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and cancer.